What's up, Raider Nation? Welcome to TRU Raider Podcast. I am your host, TRU Raider. Now, I have not gone live for a couple reasons, man. We all got the news about Ben Johnson going to the Bears, and I gotta say, part of me didn't want to come on because all I had was negativity, man. A bunch of negativity. And then another piece of this is that I had a bunch of plumbing issues going on. It was a hell of a weekend, man. It was like bad news after bad news, man. Ian in the building, what's up, man? Talking about Pete Carroll. What's good? Christopher Raiders. What it is, Raider family? What's going on, man? So I wanted to share with you guys this article that I came across today. I didn't like it very much, but here we go. So this is from Raider Ramble. And it says the harsh reality behind the Las Vegas Raiders Ben Johnson head coach process. It was a day of heartbreak for Raider Nation, who had their sights set on former Detroit Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson as their team's head coach. Momentum seemed to side with Johnson heading for Sin City to take over head coaching duties, but somehow, someway, a different outcome occurred. In a shocking move, the 38-year-old elected to take over the Chicago Bears instead. Incredibly, the Las Vegas Raiders let a near guarantee slip from their grasps. Except that isn't what happened. Although many believe that to be the case, it's quietly been well documented that in reality, the Raiders were never really in the running for Detroit's offensive play caller. NFL on Prime insider Albert Breer explained how things actually happened with the Silver and Black and Johnson, giving an ugly truth to the situation. Can we get rid of that, man? Ben went into this hiring cycle with a different approach than he's had in the last couple of years. He wasn't going to interview just anywhere. He also didn't want to embarrass teams. There was some, hey, we're probably not interviewing with you guys, so just don't even bother putting in a request. We'll save you the trouble. And the Raiders initially were one of those teams where he was going to say no to them. And then Tom Brady got involved. Now, to be clear, Johnson didn't end up interviewing with the Raiders simply as a sign of respect for Brady, nor as a favor. Sin City's situation does indeed have enticing parts, and the 7-time Super Bowl champion is a big one of those parts. However, the pitch was never enough to keep Las Vegas truly in the running. That's why, on the very day he was able to continue interviewing, Johnson already came to a decision and made it official. The harsh reality of Ben Johnson and the Las Vegas Raiders. It's a harsh truth, but it's truth nonetheless. At no point was Sin City actually the favorites to land Ben Johnson. Fox Sports NFL insider Jordan Schultz explains that while there was in fact some level of interest in the Raiders via Johnson, it never was enough to at any point consider Las Vegas the front runners for him. From my understanding, as I mentioned last week, there was never a point when the Raiders were front runners for Ben Johnson, per sources. They had an interview that went really well, but Chicago was the early favorite in this process, and they finalized it today, Schultz wrote on Monday. And while Raider Nation thought ESPN's Adam Schefter was just picking on Las Vegas, it turns out his doubt of Johnson landing with the Raiders was based on a development he was well aware of. On Friday, Schefter joins Pat McAfee's show, expanding on the Ben Johnson situation. The well-sourced insider noted he wasn't on the Johnson and Raiders train, hinting that Chicago should be the real team to watch. Schefter's sources were right on the money. In the end, although Johnson did have a moderate level of interest in the Raiders' head coaching job, it was just that, a moderate interest. It was never enough to truly compete with his preferred destinations, which is precisely why Johnson had originally ruled Sin City out prior to Brady stepping in. Now, it's back to the drawing board for the Las Vegas Raiders, who weren't able to reel in their prized fish. And there you have it. What's good, everybody? Dang, everybody hopped up in here. James Furpo with the Raiders. What's good, man? Boogie 17. Ben broke my heart. Yeah, man. That was harsh news to find out yesterday. Christopher Rabers, remember, Ben did not want to interview with the Raiders. That is facts. Raider Ryan with the salute nation. We got the model Raiders up in the building, man. Ian says, I wanted Pete Carroll ever since he left the Seahawks. Get your chewing gum ready, boys. Pete Carroll's coming. I mean, Pete Carroll is not a bad option for us. As a plan B, to have Pete Carroll as our plan B is, I'd say it's a pretty good option, right? Ye829, and that is our plan B as far as I know. But really, at this point, man, I'm a little disheartened, a little disillusioned, right, with this whole process because all of the Las Vegas Raiders insiders were saying Ben Johnson, Ben Johnson, Ben Johnson. And it just like it started really kind of looking like things were coming together for that. And remember, like before this, man, like probably about 2 weeks ago, I was on here saying Ben Johnson's not even an option. That's not even, you know, anywhere close to something that's going to be an option for us. And then all of a sudden it became an option and the hype really built really quickly, you know, and really it honestly, I said in the last live, man, that there was like an 80% chance that we ended up landing Ben Johnson. And turns out I was completely misguided on that, man. Completely misguided. Hold up real quick. Chris with the follow salute, man. Let me see real quick. Ryan Rodriguez, what's good, man? We all know this is a QB driven league. We are probably the worst QB situation in the whole league. And that's exactly it, Brian. And I think that has a really, really big role in why we weren't able to get Ben Johnson. Because if you look at our quarterback situation, right? I mean, a lot of people like Aiden O'Connell, but Aiden O'Connell he's not a starting quarterback in this league. He's really, really not. Hold up, you guys. I'm having some issues with this thing, man. He's really, really not a starting quarterback in this league. Do I think he has some upside? Yes. Do I like him? Yeah, I like him. But I think that he's the best backup quarterback in the league and needs to be a backup quarterback. And we really need to locate a starter. And at this point, man, having the 6th overall pick, I could see Ben Johnson looking at the situation and being like, okay, you know, they cleared up the GM room and I get to just kind of come in with my guys and do this whole thing. And then all of a sudden, they're in a situation where to get a quarterback, they either have to get one of these guys in free agency, which he's probably not very attached to apparently, or trade a bunch of draft capital to get Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. And I really thought that he wouldn't like Caleb Williams. I mean, if you look at Caleb Williams, it's like he's off schedule. He likes to play hero ball. He does a lot of things that are not really what seems to go really well with Ben Johnson's offense, right? But ultimately, he ended up selecting that, and apparently, and I thought, I don't know, man, I was misguided on this one, man. But apparently, Ben Johnson has really liked Caleb Williams, and he, I guess, was even in the running for the Bears job last year, and then didn't end up getting that chance because they went with this other coach. So I don't know, man. There's so much like it's speculation season. There's so much that goes out there. There's clickbait. There's you know, these articles that are just way off the handle, man, and not even like really based in reality. A lot of them, man, and it's really hard to decipher what is what at this time, man. So, when they say, "Oh, Raiders are gonna get Pete Carroll," it's like, do we really know that, Mike C? I mean, I don't really know that, man. I do know that Pete Carroll last Monday was in the Raiders building, and I guess he spent a whole lot of time, like a whole day there, which kind of made me nervous about the Ben Johnson thing because I thought for sure Ben Johnson was a lock, and I'm like, well, why did we have Pete Carroll in the building for so long? if that's what's going on, and so, for somebody like Ben Johnson, man, to come in first opportunity to be a head coach, and you look at Raiders track record, hasn't been very great as far as keeping coaches. And also we don't have a quarterback and we don't have a clear path to a quarterback. So, I mean, unfortunately, it just wasn't enough, man. I really honestly thought that they had laid out like a look, this is what you could do. You have the freedom to do this and that. There's reports saying that the offer was $96 million guaranteed for Ben Johnson, which is, he probably got something similar to that with the Bears and got to have a quarterback. I just really thought that the GM staying in place was like the key to him not going there, but you know, yeah. See, Sando, I don't like Ben Johnson nearly enough to become a Bears fan. And you know what? Part of my worry with Ben Johnson was that we're going to end up in a situation like, it doesn't always work out, right? And while I believe that he will be a good head coach, there's still always the possibility that he's not a proven head coach and he could be a really good offensive coordinator and a really awful coach, right? And we don't really know that, and I'm not going to try to throw shade or speculation, congratulations to you guys over there with the Bears, man. That, you know, it is what it is, it is what it is. But, if you look at Pete Carroll, the biggest hesitancy I have is that it was pretty clear that his career is like over, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, Pete Carroll is now in the conversation again, and he's 73 years old. And while I believe that he can still coach well, I mean, he's old. So even if he comes in and he's doing a good job, how many years do we have Pete Carroll doing a good job? So I think that that's an awful option. I don't want to go that route, just simply based on the fact of that in 2 or 3 years, we're going to need a new head coach. Now, the speculation is that Pete Carroll will be able to bring in the right pieces in order to kind of get an offensive coordinator in place that he kind of grooms into that head coaching position, and then he'll retire. That guy will take over, and that would be a great scenario, right? I would be very happy with that. And Mario Hill is talking about Cliff Kingsbury is better than Ben Johnson. I don't know really about that, right? Now, everybody's saying that because, oh, he out coached him and da da da. I mean, Ben Johnson doesn't call the defense, and the Lions have what, like 18 people on IR. So, I mean, they had a rough start. Another piece of that is that Cliff Kingsbury has already been a head coach, and that didn't go very well. And that kind of worries me. So I don't even think Cliff Kingsbury's in the conversation at this point. Raider Ryan, what's going on? True, who's our coach going to be? I know you know. Yes, because I am in the Raiders building every day. Just kidding. No, but in reality, man, at this point, like, I got the news yesterday. I was dealing with that plumbing issue. And once I resolved all that, I thought like, okay, like I'm gonna go live, let's get this going. And then it was just like, man, like I just felt so much negativity. I didn't want to come up here and just be like spewing all this negative shit. And then like really I'm at a spot where I don't even really know what direction the Raiders might go or what direction I would want to go. You know what I'm saying? Because I really just I believed that Ben Johnson was the guy. It's kind of like what happened last year with the quarterback situation, right? Like I was all in on Jaden Daniels, and I knew Jaden Daniels is going to be that guy. And I didn't have well, if we can't get Jaden Daniels, then I believe that this guy will be good as well. I didn't have that, right? It was like every other option just seemed like just trying to keep my head above water, kind of, like, and we're in that situation now where it's like, what do we do? What do we do with that? What do we do with it? Because whatever coach we get now is definitely not who was our number one. And while there's some good guys that came in the building, right? I mean, Scangarillo came in the building. We had Robert Saleh came in the building. Todd Monken, the offensive coordinator from the Ravens, interviewed. We have like these guys that Liam Cohen, like there's several guys that potentially could be good fits. But at this point, it's like it I don't know, man. I'm not really strongly attached to any of those. Thick Frame E was good, man. Can't blame him for going to a team with a QB and a division without 3 playoff teams. Well, I mean, actually the Bears are in a pretty solid division, right? What do they got? The Packers, they got the oh man, the Lions. Like he's going to be going against his old team, right? So there is a little bit weird about that. And Devin 84, I don't think Mike McCarthy's even on the table for us. I mean, though, there was all these reports saying Mike McCarthy was the favorite to go to the Bears, and that just hasn't been the case. And then we got the whole thing where Tom Telesco got fired to clear way for Ben Johnson, and now Ben Johnson's gone. And it's like, well, maybe there was more reasons than just that for Tom Telesco getting fired, right? For one, he didn't make any. Well, I don't know, man, because now we're getting conflicting reports. I made a video saying that how Adam Schefter said that we didn't even try to trade for Jaden Daniels, and then the Raiders inside beat reporters said no, we definitely did try to trade for Jaden Daniels. But then on the other side, it's like Adam Schefter was saying Ben Johnson's not going to the Raiders, and all the insiders were like, nah, Schefter, everybody was throwing him to the side like that's cap. And then he turned out to be right on that. So was he right about the thing with us not trying to trade up for Jaden Daniels? I don't know, man. Ian, the Chicago Bears also have 3 former first-round draft picks on the offensive line. That's pretty enticing as well. And the Bears have done a way better job in free agency. They've done a better job in the draft. I don't really think that their roster is much more stacked than ours, though. I really don't, man. I really, really don't. Like if you take away Caleb Williams, right, and you put Garner Minshew as their quarterback, nobody's saying, oh, yeah, the Bears are clearly a better roster than the Raiders. I don't think anybody's going to say that, because we actually have a very good roster. We have a couple of holes, and I get that, but we have a good roster. Jesus, Telesco was only given 1 year. He had a solid draft, though. He did have a solid draft. He missed on free agency. I mean, he came in Gardner Minshew, and Telesco's influence also led to Gardner Minshew starting. So, I mean, just with that news alone, it's enough to like dismiss him, man. Boogie 17, I'd rather have Liam Cohen as head coach. Look what he did with Faker Mayfield. What you're talking about? I mean, Baker Mayfield went over there to the Bucks, man, and has just looked great. That offense has been clicking. It's been looking great. I would not be upset with Liam Cohen coming in the building. He definitely wasn't my number one, but if we got news today saying the Las Vegas Raiders have signed Liam Cohen as their next head coach, I mean, I don't know, man. I'd probably be pretty happy about that, honestly. Raider Ryan saying Pete Carroll as head coach, Liam Cohen as his protege. And that would be amazing. The hard part is that Liam Cohen would then be taking like a lateral move to go from the Bucks to the Raiders, which is not very likely. I mean, if somehow they were able to sell it to him, like, look, we want to make you a head coach, but we want you to learn under Pete Carroll or something. But I really don't think it would go that route. I think that he'll go straight from where he's at as an offensive coordinator for the Bucks to a head coaching position. It's just a matter of where he lands and when he lands, Ian, Jets, Saints, Jaguars, Raiders, Cowboys, all looking for head coaches. Which is the better situation out of the 5? I think that the Raiders are the better situation out of the 5, and that's not just speaking biased. The Jets have been a shit show forever. They're going to be moving on from Aaron Rodgers, and they have a huge question mark at quarterback, and they are drafting behind us. So they don't have a clear path at quarterback right now. The Saints, I mean, the Saints is a pretty decent situation, except that Juan Ortiz with the follow salute. Uh, Derek Carr, I mean, we all know Derek Carr very well. And Derek Carr, the nation loved Derek Carr. He did great, but he's so inconsistent and he can't, he's not the guy that's going to get it done. Anthony with the follow salute. And so since Derek Carr is obviously not the guy that's going to get it done, it's like it's just kind of gonna go nowhere. So Saints have a huge question mark when it comes to their quarterback too, because Spencer Rattler is not the guy, and neither is dang, I can't remember his name right now. That other dude that they drafted over there, that's Jake Hayner. He's not him. Those guys are backups, man. That it is what it is, you know. Jesus, do you think the Raiders should try to get a starter and free agent, Darnold Fields? I'd be definitely happy if we got Sam Darnold or Justin Fields. Um, Chocolat with the follow salute. So I'd be happy with either of those. And I really, at this point, there's such a huge question mark, and I don't think that we're going to really be able to properly speculate what our quarterback situation might look like until we know what we're going to do at head coach. Because, I mean, you know, I would still say at this time that I still think Shador Sanders probably has a decent chance of landing with the Raiders. You know, Deion Sanders keeps coming out and saying that there's a couple of teams that, you know, he would not want his son to land at. And he's probably speaking on the Titans and the Bears. And then that just leaves the Giants essentially, right? Big Joe with the follow salute. So, man, I don't really know, man. Christopher Raider, smash them likes, hit subscribe. Thank you, my man. Thank you. We are on the road to 1,000 on YouTube. Please help us reach that goal. Brian Rodriguez, we just need to get a coach and stick with it. Don't be changing every year. And that's what worries me about the Pete Carroll thing, right? Is that with Pete Carroll, we end up in a situation where we're going to be looking for a new coach. Like he'd probably have a max of 5 years, right? Raider 11 with the follow salute. So I don't really know, man. The Jimbo, Dion has no control where Shador goes. Well, the thing is that he kind of does, right? Because by saying all these things in the media, it's going to make some people really skeptical to draft him if they don't really think that they're going to be able to keep him. Because, like, okay, like last year, there's speculation that Jane Daniels could pull Eli Manning and, you know, make his way to the Raiders to play with AP. But the thing is that um, Jane Daniels doesn't have a dad like Deion Sanders, right? He doesn't have a dad like the Mannings, right? Like they're not connected in the NFL. And so Jane Daniels doesn't have that kind of pull. Whereas Deion Sanders kind of does. You know, I mean, honestly, I think that whole Eli Manning thing was some garbage, right? And I don't think that people should be able to bully their way around the draft like that. And really, if Shador Sanders does it too, then I have a feeling we're going to start seeing that more and more. Oh my god. Let's see. Ian, Pete Carroll's only 73 years old. Off the field, once he gets on that football field, he's a whole different animal. Trust me, we will not regret signing Pete Carroll. He took two different franchises to the Super Bowl. And I get it, right? And that's why I would love that, except for the fact that Pete Carroll is 73 and we probably get a maximum of 5 years out of him. I mean, at the age of 73, we stopped letting my grandma drive. You know what I'm saying? And granted, Pete Carroll is a lot younger of a 73 than my grandmother. She's 89 now, and she's probably going to hit 100 because that's just what the women in that side of the family do. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, dude. Gabriel Espinosa. Some people wanted Bill Belichick, but he's same age as Pete Carroll. Yeah, I don't think that Bill Belichick is a really good option for us. And I mean, I don't know. That would just be like Tom Brady trying to recreate the old days with the Patriots, man. And I don't like that. Berendo Ball Bomber, what's up, man? Johnson is a bust who will be fired in Chicago because he's introverted to be a head coach. You have to be extroverted. Well, I mean, I don't know. Look at the Dolphins head coach, man. That dude is honestly, that dude's probably on the spectrum, man. I got family that's on the spectrum. My son is autistic, and when I look at the Dolphins head coach, I'm like, that dude probably got autism, man. So I mean, even though he's not the most socially capable, he's also a good coach. Now, the Dolphins, I think their biggest struggle is that Tua can't stay healthy. But I don't know, man. I don't pay attention to him that much. Young DB94, we need to go young. Liam. Yeah, and that was what was exciting me about Ben Johnson is that he's 38, and like then you have like he's your guy, then you could have him for decades, like Mike Tomlin. And now it's kind of back to the drawing board, right? And so I would rather go young, but I'm telling you guys, if we got news today that said Pete Carroll has signed with the Raiders, I'm not going to be mad. I'm just going to be curious on what does this look like moving forward? Like, what is the main idea when it comes to the longevity of our head coach position? I would hope that they have some kind of plan put in place. Ian, you can look anywhere Pete Carroll goes. He brings culture. He brings youth every day at practice. When he was at USC, there were hip hop rappers and movie stars hanging out at practice. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. See, and that's okay. Young DB, I'm gonna pull this up because I don't think Liam Cohen's gonna do a lateral move to come over to the Raiders as a OC. But you bring up a good point, right? Because you said ideally Pete Carroll head coach, Liam Cohen offensive coordinator, GM Spytech, and DC Vance Joseph. Bringing in Pete Carroll means that we have to land an offensive coordinator now because he's been in the league for so long and he's connected with people. I believe that he'd be able to put the proper person in place. And if we end up with Pete Carroll, who's to say that we don't end up signing Russell Wilson in free agency? That is a high possibility. Okay, and Gabriel saying, I hope we get Pete Carroll. He's our best option. It sounds like a lot of people want Pete Carroll right now. It's interesting, man. Ian thinks McCarthy signs with the Saints, and that's a high possibility as well. I mean, I thought he was going to land with the Bears, so I don't really know where he's going to go. And he's a good head coach. He is a very good head coach. And so, like, if he ends up in the conversation for us, I'm not going to be mad at that. Um, I I've talked to people who are Cowboys fans, right? I've talked to these Cowboys fans, and kind of unanimously, nobody's blaming Mike McCarthy out of the people I know anyway, right? They're all like, no, like really it's Jerry Jones, right? Their owner is getting in the way of everything. M7K7, would the Raiders entertain the idea of trading for Dak? I think that could be a possibility. I don't know if that's in our best interest because Dak Prescott is kind of just proven that he can't get it done at the next level, right? I mean, he's a good quarterback. He is a very good quarterback, but he doesn't get it done in the postseason, and that would worry me, right? Um, is Dak Prescott better than Aiden O'Connell? Hell yeah, he is. And I've had some hope that maybe Aiden O'Connell could like develop to be at a level of Dak Prescott because yeah, he's not as athletic and things like that, but both of them are fourth round picks, and what's to say that Aiden O'Connell couldn't develop to be that guy? Let me see real quick. Oh man, you guys are funny, man. Just Raiders baby. Monken and Cohen haven't interviewed yet. Raiders put a request for Monken. Yeah, and I thought Cohen had already interviewed though. Didn't he already interview? And then we have Monken has been requested, which he might have just been kind of waiting to see, if you guys are going to hire Ben Johnson, why am I going to go interview? And he might entertain it now, but I don't know, man. He might not even be interested. Now, if we end up with Monken from the OC from the Ravens, people are speculating that we could end up with, pursuing Justin Fields because he's used to Lamar Jackson and all that stuff. And I don't really think Nemesis with the follow salute. I don't really think that Justin Fields is on the level of Lamar Jackson, but maybe he could, in the right offense, in the right situation, could he kind of be groomed to be that? I believe he could, man. I maybe not as good, but similar. Let me see. Dude, you guys are funny, man. I'm not putting some of that stuff on the screen, but it's funny. Okay, Brian Rodriguez is saying we need 2 running backs, a wide receiver, 2 guards, a corner, and a QB. I don't actually think that's accurate. I think that yes, we do need at least 1 running back. Dylan Laube really didn't get any reps, and I think that he could actually be a very good back. And Amir Abdullah was great, and so was Sincere McCormick. So really, if we get a solid running back 1 in there, I think that could suffice. And this is a very deep running back class. So some people have even been projecting that we might draft 2 running backs, which wouldn't really make me mad. We need to get that ground game going. And then Jordan Meredith really stepped it up at left guard, especially with Jackson Powers Johnson at center. And we need to get rid of Andre James. Dylan Parham and DJ Glaze are the ones that kind of worry me on the right side, but they're not horrible. They are not horrible. Daniel, our run blocking looked like trash until Jackson Powers Johnson took over at center because the biggest problem in our run blocking is that we keep putting Andre James at center. And the dude is garbage. He is absolute garbage. And Dylan Parham didn't really play that well this year. Towards the end of the year, Colton Miller got back up to speed after his shoulder surgery. And so, I really think that our offensive line, the addition of 1 guard, I think would do it. And then 1 running back, I think would do it. A wide receiver, yeah, we could use one. I agree with that. And then what else? A corner. Yeah, Jack Jones is quite the liability. And now that AP's gone, I don't think Jack Jones is going to last. But also, I think we need a linebacker because Diablo is also a liability. Yeah, he gets a lot of tackles, but it's that he's chasing dudes down, after missed assignments and shit. So I don't really like it. 831 Raider saying Monken is the best available option, and he calls a great offense over there with the Ravens. And we'd be back to the drawing board with like the whole Ben Johnson talk of like, is it going to translate to a good head coach, or is he going to end up being one of those offensive coordinators that goes over to head coach and then kind of flops? Because it could go both ways. Let's see. Jags are probably the best situation. I don't agree with that, Brian. Actually, I think that Trevor Lawrence is actually kind of overrated and overpaid. And I think that they're going to end up in a situation kind of like how we were with Derek Carr. Now, Derek Carr wasn't drafted in the first round, but we had this dude that was good, but then he got this huge paycheck, so we couldn't build around him. And then it just kind of never went anywhere. If the Jags were such a good situation, why are they drafting ahead of us? see. I'm kind of behind on the chat. I'm going to try to catch up a little bit. G Money, what's good? What about Jackson Dart or Milroe, second or third round? The only way I'd be happy with picking up either of those guys is in the second or third round. I definitely do not even want to consider them in the first. And really, if we could get third round, better. But honestly, after the combine, these guys' draft stock is probably going to jump, and they might end up in the second or maybe even the late first round. And I'm not really sold on either of them. I watched some tape on both of them. Milroe is, I don't think he's going to translate to the NFL. He's like Richardson that went to the Colts. He reminds me of him, but with less of an arm. And then Jackson Dart tries to make a lot of throws that his arm isn't capable of, right? He thinks that he has more zip on the ball than he does. Creative Prince saying Jackson Dart's the best QB in the draft. Watch some film breakdowns, right? Because I've seen some highlights and stuff that make him look really, really good, right? And then when you get really into the deep breakdowns, it's like he could be a developmental guy that turns into a very good quarterback. But Jackson Dart would have to sit for at least 1 year in the NFL to even be considered to be a starter. Ian, I know that what the media is saying about the draft being quarterback weak, but in reality, I see possibly six quarterbacks being drafted in the first round. I think Jalen Milroe will be one of them. I mean, I don't see anybody besides Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, Jackson Dart, and Jalen Milroe getting taken even close to the first round. Because besides that, I can't think of a single. A lot of people are kind of hype on Will Howard right now, but a lot of people see a player play one really good game or one really bad game, and then it's just like that is what it is, right? And that's that player, and it's really not. If you take a look at more history and more tape, it's like, dude, like Jackson Dart had a really good game against, who was it, Duke? And then, I mean, so yeah, everybody was all hyped on that. And then Shedeur Sanders had a really bad game, and everybody's like, oh, see, he's a bust. And I don't think that is enough to really do it, man. Okay, so 831 Raider, Jackson Dart is a scraper. I like the fight in him. And that kind of thing about him reminded me of Bo Nix, right? Interesting. That really reminded me of Bo Nix, because Bo Nix, he was projected to be a second round quarterback at best. And then he got drafted pretty early in the first, and he's got such fight in him, and it makes it to where he's progressing in the right way. So, I mean, that's part of what's really good about Jackson Dart, is that he has that same kind of fight in him. You know what I'm saying? Christopher Raiders, Carroll can get this team going in the right direction. Then in 3 to 4 years, we can get that alpha coach. And you're on to something with that, right? Because if Pete Carroll comes in and kind of cleans things up and gets us to where we're starting to get a winning record and we're starting to be pretty solid, even though he won't be here for a long time, he could make this situation more attractive. You are very right with that, Chris. You are very right with that. Boogie 17, just bring Spytek and Cohen, call it a day. I'm telling you guys, I would be happy with that. Let me see. Jose Mendez will take Renfro in Chicago too. I mean, Renfro is, I don't know if he's going to play another NFL snap again, right? Raiders fool Chris, what's up, man? What up, True? F it, let's make Tom Brady the head coach. Oh man, that would be hilarious, but yeah, it's not going to happen, man. Just Raiders, baby. We should interview McCarthy, not necessarily hire right away, but see if something's line up. I think, there's a lot to that happens with the interview process where maybe you might not be sold on a guy originally, but then as the process moves along, you start seeing things and kind of get more interest in seeing that things do line up. But I think that it's kind of late in the cycle, and we're probably going to be looking to hire a coach in the next week or so. Solomon Mitchell, what's up, man? We need an offensive minded coach. If we do get a good OC, and that's an if, we will get poached in 2 years and we will be in the same spot all over again. And that is accurate, right? And unless we end up turning our OC into the head coach eventually, right? Like if Pete Carroll's kind of too old, retires, and then the OC takes over, I could see that being a thing. But yeah, that's what's happening to the Lions right now, right? Where their OC and their DC are getting poached. Let's see, man. Sholo man, what's up? Thoughts on Chad Alexander, potential GM, Ozzie Newsome tree? I'm not familiar with Chad Alexander. I'll have to do some research on him, man. Straight up. Christopher Raider saying almost 40 in the room and 19 likes. Actually, we got 51 in the room right now. Please hit them likes. Double tap if you're on TikTok, but please hit them likes. Please hit that subscribe, man. Let me see. OnlyFans Sports. Sounds like we need everything. We don't need everything. We just need everything. You know what I'm saying? We do have a lot of things that we do need. What's the best job left available? Has to be Dallas, right? It does not have to be Dallas. It does not have to be Dallas because a lot of people are turned off by Jerry Jones meddling too much. And that's going to really sink that franchise, man. It really is. Let me see. I'm a little bit limited on time, man, so I'm going to try to catch up on the chat a little bit. Christopher Raiders, finally you're up and running. Put your link in the chat. Once Chris hits that link in the chat, please go subscribe to Chris's page, man. Sholo, man, people need to go watch Dart fourth quarter, last 2 minutes versus Florida. Some really dumb decisions in the clutch. I'm going to have to go check that out. I know I've seen some tape where, it's like the decision making is like, it's inconsistent. Sometimes it's like this guy is on point. He's throwing it to where his receivers like catch it in stride, and they're taking, little slants for touchdowns because he just threw a dime. And then I'm seeing other ones where it's like, what was he thinking? Why was that the decision that he made, man? It's crazy. Yeah, OnlyFans Sports. Raiders should sign a veteran QB, i.e., Sam Darnold or similar, and draft one. Let him sit and learn the position. And that's accurate because I don't think running it back with Aiden O'Connell is really going to get us to the playoffs. Maybe in the right situation, Aiden O'Connell could get us to the wild card, but I don't think he's winning a playoff game. I just don't, man. I've seen a decent amount of Aiden O'Connell to make that decision. I would have liked to see more of him this year so we could really just kind of see who he is, Gunsmoke in the building. Salute, man. Salute. So yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot of time, guys. Right now, I'm I'm working from home, so I'm taking my lunch. I gotta get back on it, you guys. Oh, Christopher Raiders just dropped his link in the chat. Um, you guys go and subscribe. There we go. Go and subscribe to Chris, man. Go and subscribe to Chris. I'm gonna go look that up as well, man. Hold up. There we go. Found him. And if you just type Christopher Raiders into the search bar, if you don't want to click any links, type Christopher Raiders in the search bar. You will find him. He pops up right away. That's Chris, the number 4, and then Raiders. Go and check him out. I just subscribed. I'm going to have to check out some of your videos, man. I'm glad you're on. Glad you're on. All right, you guys. I am out of here. Like always, I love you, nation. And ye with the follow salute. I will catch you guys on the next one.